All right, here we go. Only 4 games left of the second match days here at the World Cup. It is Groups K, it is Groups L. We have Portugal taking on Uzbekistan, Colombia taking on the Democratic Republic of the Congo in Group K. In Group L, it is England going up against Ghana and Croatia going up against Panama. A lot could be decided on this final match day 2 before we start getting into the final group stage games. So let's get after it. Welcome into World Cup Preview, World Cup Today, here on the Nick Burt Sports Network. I am, of course, your host, as always, Nick Burt. If you do not follow at NickBurt13 on X/Twitter, yesterday episode did not happen just because of technical difficulties in producing it, so that is completely on my fault. We'll continue rolling here, though. Think the technical difficulties have gotten figured out, though. A lot going on today. So we're going to get straight into it. We're going to go Group K here. Start 1 p.m. kickoff. It is coming out of the beautiful Houston Stadium once again, and it is Portugal going up against Uzbekistan. Quite the interesting matchup here. Portugal coming in off a just poor match against DR Congo that saw them break a record nobody wants to break if you're Portugal. And for Uzbekistan, it's about getting your first points at a World Cup after just a bad loss to Colombia in the first group stage game. Now, of course, all the talk in this game is going to be about Cristiano Ronaldo and how washed he is. Simple as that. He is washed. I mean, it's 41, 42 years old, something like that. And he just drags this Portugal team down. And it does not help that this seems to be a really good team with like a really good midfield that's kind of being dragged down because Lionel Messi is not. Everybody thought that's what Ronaldo was going to be this Messi, and Messi's had a great last 2 World Cups when honestly he probably could have been retired by this point. But Ronaldo is not following that Messi trajectory. He's going the exact opposite direction. Over the past, I want to say 11 major competition games, so that includes the Euro back in 2024. Ronaldo has 0 goals, which is not great. It felt like the 2024 Euro should have been his final go-around with the Portugal team, and then they kind of push him out and say, "We've had a good run with you, Ronaldo, but it's time to move on." Well, they didn't do that. They brought him back here at this World Cup, and it's going exactly as people expected. He does not look good out there. It's kind of sad watching it, if we're honest. It kind of pains me. Like, he just, I think back to the Ronaldo of old, and now you see him out there, and he looks awful. Simple as that. It also doesn't help. Roberto Martinez is just it brings pain to my head how bad of a manager he is. Truly, he just annoys me so much because he burned the Belgium golden generation, and now he's burning this Portugal squad. Luckily, he's stepping down after this tournament, but still, mamma mia, he is just so poor. And I don't get how it can be that bad, basically. Well, one, how did he get another job like this is beyond me. And I've went into this plenty, but kind of the point just got proven again. Just a absolutely horrid performance. Something I don't ever want to watch again, but we're probably going to have at least, including this match, 3 more matches of Roberto Martinez football at a World Cup. I just want it to be over as quickly as possible. Same with Ronaldo. At this point, I'm just kind of tired of it. I think they'll get a win here. I mentioned that they broke a record in the last game. They had 7 shots against the DR Congo, which is the joint fewest in any World Cup match for Portugal, which is wild to say the least. I'm still taking Portugal to win here. I may get burned, and if I do, I do. But realistically, Portugal should be beating Uzbekistan. And I said that against DR Congo. And look where we ended up. Obviously, it should be a Portugal win. And I'm going to take them to win. But I can see them drawing or, hell, even losing this game because they looked so bad against DR Congo. And I think that's a thing that people are trying to really balance right now is this Portugal team should be doing so much better. They have the talent to be doing so much better. But it seems like this team they kind of just hate each other. And it's all basically because of Ronaldo. It's shocking to say the least. I can't believe what I'm seeing at some points. It is just a disaster of epic proportions. And I really got nothing other than that. So we will move on to the other game in Group K, and that is Colombia taking on DR Congo. 10 p.m. kickoff from the Guadalajara Stadium in Mexico. Colombia coming into this game off the win against Uzbekistan. They have a chance to clinch their spot in the round of 32 with a win here. DR Congo got a point, which is just a massive result for that nation. Can they follow that up with maybe another point or maybe even 3 points here against Colombia? Now, for DR Congo, I will say it is going to be a difficult match for them. I think Colombia is kind of, again, I know this is Uzbekistan, but they're living up to what I think a lot of people expected to see from them this tournament. Through one game, they looked great. They have a really good team around them. Obviously, they're taking conditions into their own hands, kind of. They are using them to their full advantage. They look really good. It worries me how good they kind of look because I did have them as one of my dark horses, and, well, we're still here. We are indeed still here. So, the DR Congo team, though, they played really, really well against Portugal. Again, they held them to their joint fewest shots in a World Cup game, which should not be, taken for a slight because, this Portugal team is not running correctly right now. We all know that. But the fact that DR Congo held them to that is just, it's mind-boggling, truly. DR Congo was a team I don't think a lot of people expected a lot from this tournament, truly. And here we are. We're halfway through the group stage. And, they haven't looked terrible. I think that's the best way to put it. I love stories like DR Congo, obviously. But this just feels like Colombia's time. Their chance to lock up the group. Obviously, they'll have the game against Portugal to fully lock down that group in the final group stage match. But to clinch that spot in the round of 32 kind of takes a little bit of a weight off. I know you're still chasing that top spot in the group, but this feels like a massive opportunity that I do think Colombia end up taking advantage of just because, they are the better team here. Tactically, I'm not really sure how DR Congo are going to line up. If we see something similar to what they did against Portugal. It's going to be interesting to see if they can hold down Colombia's shot total, because it worked really well against Portugal. And if they can do that again, that makes me think, maybe they got a chance to kind of sneak around here, play some good defensive football, and, just run from there. That is going to be very interesting to watch, because DR Congo is a team I don't think a lot of people talked about being like, oh, they're this, defensive masterclass team. And maybe it works out for them. That is going to be an interesting watch there. But I still do think Colombia take advantage of kind of everything here and walk away victorious. And like I said, I love this Colombia team. They kind of have played like I expected them to so far. I know basically the ghost of James Rodriguez is playing out there in center midfield, which doesn't really help. But, Luis Diaz looking good. Luis Suarez, not the Luis Suarez you're thinking of, though. He's looking good. You take a look at your goal scorers from the game against Uzbekistan. You had Daniel Munoz, the right back from Crystal Palace, who incredible talent. Luis Diaz, of course. And it was Jamito Campas from Rosario Central on the left wing. It was a very impressive performance. I liked what I saw from them. They kind of controlled possession the whole game, which kind of what you would expect when you're playing Uzbekistan. I know they had the most shots in the game. It was 15. They had 27 touches in the opponent's box. They had, I believe, 61 or 62% of the possession. Quite interesting to see how that plays out there, especially given with what DR Congo did to Portugal. Going to be interesting to see if that develops quite similarly here. We move on to Group L, and Group L is kind of all over the place. We have the two top teams in this group facing off, a chance to lock down this group coming into today, given a result in this game and results elsewhere. And that, of course, is England going up against Ghana. Now, England come in off their 4-2 victory over Croatia, who obviously many believe are the second best team in this group. For Ghana, it's coming in off a very, very late goal against Panama to clinch a 1-0 victory. Obviously, England, heavy favorites here. They look very good. Now, backline, questionable. I will say that. That was very questionable. I know they went into the half 2-2 against the Croatia. It was the first time in World Cup history that England have given up 2 goals in the first half, which is wild to think, first off. And second off, it's kind of shows how shaky this back line is. Now, both of them kind of were screamers of goals. I got to give them that. They were beautiful goals. But there were defensive lapses there that have me worried. Now, you can have defensive lapses against your Croatias, against your Ghanas, against your Panamas, because although I think Croatia is still good, they're not what they used to be. You can have those lapses because you're still going to put 4 or 5 past, the Ghana keeper or the Panama keeper. That is going to be interesting to see how that develops there. Overall, though, England, heavy favorites. Of course they are. Harry Kane, probably going to get a hat trick. If we're completely honest, he's going to put himself in that golden boot race because he wants to be up there with Messi. He wants to be up there with Haaland. He, of course, wants to be up there with Mbappe. So I am going to be very interested to see kind of what he can do here because these 2 games against Ghana and Panama, depending on the result, he may not play much, but these are chances to really add on to that goal tally and kind of get himself in this race here because it never gets easier from here on out. once we get into the knockout stages, it is going to be kind of ugly football that you are going to need to play to win. And it's simple as that. I think England win big here, obviously. Ghana is going to be just praying for the end by the 75th minute when they're down 4-1 or 4-0. And maybe Tuchel lets up. I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see that lineup, though, tomorrow. Does Tuchel switch things around? That is interesting to see because there are some few things in there. I'm looking at Mark Guehi. I'm looking at a Morgan Rogers. I know Saka's not healthy, so I'm not expecting him. But are there changes in the squad? That is going to be very interesting to see how that plays out there. But like I said, England, I don't think this is going to be quite difficult for them to get 3 points in this one. England, just the better side. It's as simple as that. The only thing I will say, this is a 4 o'clock kickoff in Foxborough, Massachusetts, outside. England have not played a game outside at this World Cup yet. Now, they did play friendlies in Florida, in Tampa and Orlando prior to the World Cup. So some experience in the heat, but how that plays out is going to be very interesting to watch there. One final game of the day, 7 p.m. kickoff, kicking off from the Toronto Stadium, and it is Panama going up against Croatia. Both teams coming off losses, looking to keep their tournament hopes alive here. Obviously, Panama, that tough 1-0 loss to Ghana. That game was cruising to a 0-0 draw, and then Ghana just steal it at the death. For Croatia, it's getting up off the mat after a 4-2 loss against England. And realistically, they should do that. I know Panama have a halfway decent back line, but they were playing against Ghana. I'm not expecting much of this one. Truly, I don't think this is going to be, Group L is kind of serving up the 2 games that nobody needs at this point. We kind of know how this group is going to go. But I still think Panama give Croatia a bit of a game for a little while. But then once Croatia gets a goal, I think it kind of avalanches from there. And that's how Croatia ends up with a 3-0 victory. Going to be interesting to see how long Luka Modric plays. Obviously, we kind of saw him in the game against England. I believe he only played like 60 minutes, so he got hooked right around the hour mark. It's going to be interesting to see the formation lineup for Croatia because I believe they were in a 3-4-3 against England. Do they go back to that with 3 men on the back line, or are you going to do a 4-3-3, maybe potentially add another player onto that back line? Obviously, that is going to be very interesting. And then, of course, I don't know if I should say I'm expecting it, but Dominik Levalek, the goalkeeper, he had a great performance despite conceding 4 goals against England. He kind of just, you don't know where he plays club football. Obviously, I do. He's on loan for Dinamo Zagreb in Croatia. He kind of just shows up at World Cups, has great performances, and then you don't hear about him again for 4 years. I'm expecting another great performance from him in this one. So give me Croatia to win. I'll say kind of big here, kind of recoup some of that goal differential. I'll say 3-1. They get the win here. Actually, no, I'll go 3-0. 3-0, Croatia get the win here, and things kind of simple from there. So that is going to wrap it up for this edition of World Cup Preview, World Cup Today, here on the Nick Burt Sports Network. So thank you so much for watching. If you just stumbled across this video, click like, click subscribe, tell anybody you know about it. We are indeed going to be here until the end. Unless another technical difficulty happens, we are here until the end. So make sure you are always locked and loaded here on the Nick Burt Sports Network. Make sure you hit the notification button so you know when these videos drop every morning and sometimes in the evening after, a full World Cup day of action. So thank you so much for watching. We will see you again soon for another episode here on the Nick Burt Sports Network.